Welcome everyone to my podcast. Today I have Mike Jones on here with Primal Canine and the creator and founder of Canine Street League. It's nice to see you again. So tell me a little bit about your story and how you got into dogs.
So how much time do we got? I mean, it's going to be so like my story when I got into dogs. Actually, I got into dogs by getting in trouble when I was around 13 years old. I got in a lot of trouble, so then I had to have to do community service, and I worked at a shelter. So I did a lot of stuff there. That's how I got started in, and then since then, the dogs have always been a part of my life since then. So even like later in my life when I got out of prison, I started doing like I was boxing and everything like that. So one of my mentors knew that I was a boxer and like I was fighting MMA. He was like, "All right, we'll try helper work." So then I started in Schutzen, and this is like my early 20s. So this is like basically 20 years ago. So that's when it was actually called Schutzen. So I learned helper work there, and then it kind of just continued. I mean, for the rest of my life, it's just either trying to not get bit by dogs or trying to get bit by dogs, and helping people with their dogs, and it kind of just expanded up until about I think it was like 28, 29, and that's when I started Primal Canine, and then Primal Canine's been around. We just celebrated our 11-year anniversary. I think a couple weeks back.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, no, it's been a journey. It's a whole lot of stuff learning from the shelters to Schutzen, and especially in the old school days, which is now old school days. I feel like I'm dating myself here, but it was definitely yeah, it's like a transition of like like learning just the different styles throughout all the years, because like the dog world, it's like kind of always it's
Evolving.
just evolving, and it's like regurgitating some of the same information, and it's just a lot of different things. But yeah, that's my story, and I guess the cliff notes of my story with the dog world and getting into it.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you started with Schutzen. Were you a part of a club or did you have your own
Yeah,
club?
no. So I was part of the San Jose German Shepherd Club. It was ran by Terry Macias. That was my main mentor. Multiple world champion type of a thing. So yeah, I started with him in my early 20s, and he was I I credit him a lot for a lot of the understanding, just like the communication between dogs and like people, especially on the handler side,
Yeah.
and just understand that paralanguage. So I started over there.
What made you decide to create your own dog sport and what was your vision for it?
So it was during the pandemic. I was doing a lot of like Drinks and Dogs podcasts with KD and Oscar, and then Oscar brought up randomly like, "Hey, like let's just start our own thing, like as a personal protection thing." And I was like, "All right, cool." I was like, but in my mind, I always kind of wanted to help better like the culture. Like I always kind of wanted to make the culture a little more positive, and not like I mean, because to be blatantly honest, as we all know, the dog world's pretty toxic,
Yeah.
and it can be pretty toxic at times. And I feel like we could do a lot more and do a lot better with it. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, well, let's just create this professional sport where handlers can get paid for, if they win and they can do they put the work in, they can make some money. Decoys can actually get taken care of. They get paid to come out. They get, like all my decoys when we're around each other, like, they all get paid, when we do our events. We all go out to dinner together. We all hang out together. We all like keep it a positive community and everything like that. So I figured it was like, it's time for something for that to happen, and
Yeah.
while also still supporting other dog sports, because it's not like other dog sports are bad and like street league is this. It's more like you can do street league and you can still compete in anything else, because that's essentially why I created like the catches the way I created them, and that's why we created the routines the way I created them, so like everyone can kind of cross train, still have fun in those sports. But if you want to come in like to a street league event, as Katie says, it's a you can come and get paid if you win. And that's kind of what we created. We just wanted to kind of better the culture and like make it a more positive thing.
How did you start and what was the process of creating like we don't have to get too far into it, but what were the logistics of it?
So I mean, it's pretty simple. I think when Oscar mentioned it to me, I don't think he realized like how like crazy I am, and like I was like, all right, like we're just gonna run with it. So like he said it. I talked to my team, my media team, and then we created a logo like the next day, and then I created the rule book, and then some handler books and stuff like that. And then like a month later, we were like in Los Angeles doing like the first certification, and then
Oh
after
wow.
that, like yeah, and then after that we we reached out to some people, and then it got traction. So it was pretty simple. Then once we saw like what the first event was like and the response that we got, then we immediately went into like, okay, cool, like our team, which is myself, Aaron, G, Roman, and Ed. We basically set up a business, and like we got sponsorship from Ray Allen, because Ray Allen is one of like, I've been designing stuff with him for a while, so we got that from there. And then next thing you know, like we have our first trial, but it's like logistically wise, it was relatively easy. It was just we just went right into it, and I think within from the first day we talked about it to about 6-7 months later, we had our first trial
Oh
in San
wow.
Diego.
I didn't realize
Yeah,
it quickly. I remember when I came up there to train with you guys when we got Vigo. Do you remember that Mal?
yeah, no, I definitely remember that dog.
Yeah, he's a hard one to forget, even to this day. But I remember when we went up there, you were kind of you were just messing around with some of the things for the I don't know what you call the scenario where they steal the bag from the table.
Back snatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you were like messing around with that. So it's super cool to see all these years later how much it's grown. One of my good friends, Melly, she has Valmont House in Florida. She competes in it with her shepherd.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
won.
I remember she came to California, right, with her dog.
Yeah, David is her husband. David is a Streetly decoy now.
Yep. Do you know all the states that have clubs, and then are there any international clubs?
Yeah, so we have. Well, I mean, I'm almost. We have like I think it's like 100 and something clubs right now.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how many
Um,
clubs.
yeah, so there's a map. If you go to streetly.com, you can look at the map of the clubs. It's not updated completely. We have internationally wise, we have the Tactical Canine family Streetly Club there in Germany, Ecuador, which I'm sending my team out to Ecuador here in like 3 weeks to do a giant workshop and certification in Ecuador, Peck Gym in Mexico City, which Aaron and I just came back from like a month and a half ago or something like that. Um, we just went over there. Their club is there, and then we have Colombia, Puerto Rico. So we have like it's pretty it's expanded pretty rapidly in club wise, and we're trying to keep the growth slow and controlled. That way we can have like control over everything, because we don't want clubs to just pop up and then like misrepresent the the culture and what we're doing. So we're
Yes.
trying to make it like to where it's like everybody's like on point. If you talk to Erin, she'll probably tell you like, well, a lot of my mornings up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like checking in on a lot of different things, just making sure like everything's good, and making sure my club directors and decoy directors are on point. It's like we're making sure everyone's good, because we don't want it to have like this whole big expansion to where we lose control of the quality. Hence why we don't do tons of trials and everything like that, because we want to make sure like, okay, like when we do our trial, we do our trial, but for the most part just go ahead and like compete in everything else and just cross train street league.
I definitely think that's a good idea too, because when things grow too quickly, it could get a little bit messy. I've noticed that with PSA recently, like the last year or two, it's just kind of blown up and has definitely shown that it's kind of growing too fast. So that makes complete sense. And obviously, since it's something you created, you want to make sure that it's coming to fruition how you want it to. Are you actually competing in the sport, or are you more so just focused on like maintaining it, growing it, and stuff like that?
No, I refuse to compete because I created everything. Yeah, like I created all the scenarios, like I did all the things like that, like because like and I use my dogs, so like how fair would that be? It'd be like like for example, like I don't know if there's a video out there on Reggie's Beast Fit Reggie's on Instagram. He's one of my decoys, and like my dog Cerberus created the boogeyman surprise, to the point to where my 9-year-old daughter ran the boogeyman surprise like perfectly with him, and like in front, like after the mock trial. So I'm like, I tell people like, oh, are you going to compete? I was like, why? I was like, it's pointless. I'd rather just grow it for everybody else,
Yeah.
and like see everyone else like get bigger and do that stuff, and I just sit here and basically make scenarios and work with, because I got a slew of monsters over here, that we can work these scenarios out and make sure they're good, and then we can go from there. But yeah, no, I told everybody already. I was like, I'm never competing in this sport. Like, it's just one of those things where I just feel like it's not like ethical.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Does Erin compete, or does she plan to, or no? Is she on the same page with you?
Yeah, and then the only one in our family is going to compete is Ivy. She wants to compete with her little staffy.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Are you having like an age minimum
Oh, for
or
the dog or for the kid?
both? I guess both. That's a good question.
No, so it's only a year old for the dog, and then there's no age limit on the kid, as long as the kid is, can handle it. Because I mean, yeah, competent in it. Like I know my daughter, like she runs in club like when she's with me, and she does like her stuff. So like I know she can handle it when she's ready for it, but no pressure on it. But yeah,
Yeah,
there'll be no age limit.
all over Instagram. She's smoking some of these other trainers.
Yeah, we were joking around like with some of my club members. I was like, dude, I don't know how she catches on so quickly, and everyone's like, oh, it's just genetics. Like, I was like, I guess so.
Um, so what do you think makes Canine Street League stand apart from other sports?
I think it's more so the community. Like it's more so what we when you come to a Canine Street League event, it's a community. We're all supportive with each other. We all celebrate each other. We encourage people to do other sports. We encourage people to get better. And like with my guys, like my decoys, for example, like I encourage them to be a better person. Like that's why we push the heavy and the on the fitness level. We have our conversations, we sit down, we talk. We want to make sure like I check in on, well, when I get the time, I check in on a lot of my guys just to make sure like, hey, like like everyone's good. Like even some of my street league decoys, we have a foundation called Valor Canine where we help with human trafficking, like help support survivors of human trafficking and get dogs. So Mally and David actually, they donated a dog to help a survivor of human trafficking,
Yeah,
and they're
I saw that.
training one of our survivor dogs as well. So like it's just about like the biggest thing with us is just making sure that we're building the community, and it's not like cutting people down or talking bad about other sports or anything like that. We just want to make sure we're like doing that. But I mean, when it comes to like the separation aspect of it, when on a technical side, we focus on. I mean, everyone focuses on like real world protection, but we try to focus on, and especially in the later levels, like actual real world protection. Like there's gonna be a lot of hidden suit scenarios, a lot of things coming up that I have devised in my little Rain Man book of sketches. So coming up from a level 1 to level 5 right now. There's
Oh
going to
wow.
be a lot of there's going to be a lot of different changes here, but I mean, it'll be fun.
What do they?
So the way that I built it, the scenario wise, is level 1, the EL is basically a way for everyone to come from other sports to come in and like make it to where like they can still cross training, and it's like right in there. The one's a little more advanced, where we're still doing very similar things that are like based on other sports as well, just so that way everyone can kind of just like feel comfortable with it. Once we get into twos, we're looking at hidden suits, more real world stuff, and then muzzle work. And then once we get past that, then we're looking at not even using fields anymore. We'll be using warehouses and buildings and all those things. So it's just going to continuously grow to the point where, for at least what I got written out, to more very realistic stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds really fun, actually. What are the training tools that are allowed versus not?
So the way that it's going to be is like it's first saver and 2-inch collar right now.
Okay.
That way, because it's, everyone uses a first saver, right? Like in every sport. So it's a first saver, dominant dog collar, or and then a 2-inch collar. So it's either the two correction collars and that. So that's pretty much what it is right now. As we get further into it, it's basically just going to be a 2-inch collar, and then go from there. But I just want to make it adaptable to where we're not messing with anyone's real training. I want to make sure that that everyone can still like you can use that and still transition over.
Yeah, makes sense. So, what is your process for certifying a decoy, and what kind of perks do they get?
The decoy certification. That is we I push them. It's I push the guys. Anybody really who comes in, and it's a basically a 2-day thing. They come in. I want to make sure because obviously I do it to myself probably worse than I do it to them, just to make sure because obviously I work a lot of dogs. I want to make sure that one you can handle yourself when you're tired, and you can make sure you catch a dog when you're tired. And the one thing that like a mentor used to tell me is like fatigue makes cowards of us all. So I want to see like how far you can go before like you're done. and then what you do after that. It's like a lot of the times Corley will always tell, like Chris Corley, who's our decoy director, also my Primal Canine Florida guy. He always says, he's like, everything Mike does is a test when you're in pro camp, because like I'll give him like donuts and like coffee in the morning. Then I'll have him like run, and then in the middle of the day we'll give him like tacos or pizza, and then we'll like do
That's
some more
messed up.
stuff. Yeah, and then we'll go out. I'll be like, hey, go ahead, guys, get drinks. I'll pay for everything. And then the next day we go into like the certification process. But we have Omar Lima, who is the strength and conditioning coach of Canine Street League decoys. So like he comes in, he shows like practical movements, and like he does all the stuff like helping him stretch, helping him recover, do all those things. And then we go into the second day, like where it's like, all right, cool, like that's when I'm gonna that's where we're gonna see where everyone stands. And then as far as that, like whoever basically survives or like at least shows character in that in those later levels, they get certified for it. The perks that we try to do is that we try to use our marketing platform, with Street League, our team. We try to promote each individual person like on there. We push them out content. We give them content. And then also when you get selected to be a decoy, you get paid $500 a day for a trial. And then you get flown out. We always take care of food. We take care of your hotel. I try to help train them as well. Try to help them better their skill sets as well. So then they get to work on with me and my dogs. So I mean, it's a whole big fun event. And we just build a community. So like we have a little band app where everyone like talks to each other and shares videos and all that stuff like that too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that definitely helps keep the communication, everyone on the same page too. So the only way that they could certify is by coming to California, right?
Yeah. So we basically what we're gonna do with the next because Ecuador's gonna have their certification because now we're starting our South America branch. So they're gonna have the certification here in like 3 weeks. The next certification is going to be at Pro Camp, which will be in Gilroy, California, and then I'll announce that here pretty soon. Like the way that it's basically invite only. So like what we do is we have them like tag Street League, and then we pick which ones we want, and then they come in, and then if they survive, they survive.
I'm sure the tacos get to some of them. What are your short and long term goals for Canine Street League?
Short term, right now, we're working with some pretty major sponsorships that are coming in. That's going to make it a little bit. It's going to make it more of a professional sport than it already is. Long term goal is it to be a professional world sport, where people where people can watch it on TV, and my decoys and like my handlers and stuff like that can have sponsorships. Similar to like because I come from the fighting background, right? So like if you watch like the UFC, that's kind of like the goal. Like that would be that's the goal essentially for Street League.
Some of the questions I got were some of these are kind of repetitive. What year was Canine Street League created?
December of 2020.
Yeah, 2020 was an interesting year.
Yeah, that was a rough.
I think it had good and bad.
We were able to take care of our community. We did a whole big food program, and then we created Street League, and it was pretty I think it was kind of good. Besides having to stay in the freaking house, that drove me insane.
I mean, luckily you guys have a lot of dogs to keep you busy, though.
Right.
The Aussie puppies look really nice.
Yeah, my body says no, but my mind says yes on that one.
I told Erin I told her a while ago that I wanted a Dutchie. This was probably I don't even know if I had my shepherds at the time that I even brought to work with you. I told her that I wanted a Dutchie. My husband got one. He imported him. I changed my mind. I'm good. I'll stick with the shepherd.
Yeah, it's a different ball game.
This is something that someone asked. Which sport do you find is most similar to Canine Street League?
It'd have to be between Mondio and PSA.
Yeah, I can see that.
It'd have to be between the both of those. I mean, because I mean, like, and the thing too is that we really haven't seen what Canine Street League is all about yet because we haven't got to the further levels.
Yeah.
So right now you're seeing like the mixture of everything. You're not seeing like the actual like kind of the I guess the idea or like you're not seeing the actual version of Canine Street League yet. Right now we're just doing things to get everyone together, and then that way we can train and we can do like fun stuff. But once we see the actual version of Street League, it's going to be something very different. The goal that Oscar and I had when we first started with it is it's going to be very different than what we're seeing now.
So what level are you up to right now? Are you doing the EL still, or are you up to level 1?
We're up to level 1. So like Melly, she's in a level 1. We have another lady who has like a Stone Grove Dogs level 1. Psych is a level 1. Um, and then that's pretty much it. So like now we have everyone trying to get past the ones. So if we get everyone past the ones on this next one, then we'll see from there. But right now we're just trying to get everyone past ELs and then get into the opportunity to do one.
Are you doing one leg or two legs for each level?
It's just one leg. We're already having issues with people passing the EL.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to make people do it twice. Like that's just ridiculous. Like, when we do like our carjacking scenario or when we do like, some of the bag snatch stuff, like we're losing like half our competitors like right there. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things, or even like some of the obedience, the obedience is already pretty tough.
Is it required to have a focus heel or is it just a preference?
No, there's no requirement. It's pretty much, as long as your dog's not pulling on the leash and, you're not correcting your dog. And because again, it's supposed to be like more reality, right? So like, I don't, I don't know about you, but I don't walk my dogs with a focus heel all the time. Like it's just one of those things. Like they
Yeah.
just walk with me. I have like 3 different heel commands. And like, we'd go from there, but like, it's not going to be it's not a requirement at all. It's just make sure you have a clean heel and then you're good.
And then what type of pressures are currently in the EL and the level 1?
And then we use a jerry can and a clatter stick.
Okay.
And then there's 4 decoys on the field when you do your obedience routine. So like there's all that stuff, which is I've learned that physical presence is already enough for a lot of dogs.
Do you decoy for trials?
No, to direct the decoys. Go to our YouTube, check out the Instagram, hit the website, contact us, email us if you have any questions. I mean, there's a lot of information out there with it. The big thing, the one thing I want to state, like with Street League, the whole purpose is to create a positive community in the sport world, and if you train in other sports, that's awesome. We support you in doing that. When we do our events, come to our events and, try and train there too. We're trying to make it as adaptable as possible.
Awesome, sweet. Okay, well, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to do this with me. I know your schedule is crazy, so I really appreciate it. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you.